Welcome to another edition of Agency Scaling Secrets. I'm Solomon Timothy. Today's question is, what should my agency's margins be? It's a great question. Let's dive in. For the purposes of this video, I want to talk about gross margin and not net margins. The reason is you can work with your accountant, with your CPA, and manage your net margins based on all the other expenses you have. But for the purpose of this video, this is to help you understand what your gross margin should be. That is only taking into consideration what it costs to deliver the work. Gross margins are going to be dependent on the type of agency that you're running today. So if you're currently hiring people and you're managing the team and hiring additional staff and backup staff and managers, your gross margins are going to look very different from someone who might be working with a white label partner where the costs are fixed because they have greater control on their expenses. They can manage their gross margin much faster. We've found that many agency owners, when they switch from an in-house operation or in-house fulfillment to a partnership model like the one that we have, they actually achieve greater gross margins just because before their costs were unpredictable because there could be staff changes. You have to give bonuses and raises and things like that. You might hire additional staff to build a bigger team. All that erodes into your gross margin every single month and also every single year. Again, I want this to be more of an educational thing rather than giving you a percentage or a number that you're gonna go and try to achieve, because without really knowing your type of business and the products and how you deliver that, it's really hard to give you an exact number, but I'm gonna give you some ranges so you can work on that. Number one, I want you to understand that the biggest of agencies, they would be extremely happy with a 30% gross margin, extremely happy, because the nets are in the single digits at best, all right? So agency business in itself are very unscalable businesses just because you're dealing with a lot of labor, there's a lot of people involved, and that's very unpredictable, and there's a lot of costs associated with it, right? So what our job is here at ClickX is to make a business that is actually relying heavily on people and unpredictable when it comes to cost, and make it more predictable for the agency owner, because we provide a fixed price and you can know your margins instantly, right? So you know that and we know that, and makes your life easier so you can turn it into a product-based business and actually have better controls on your margins and helping you reach the target revenue and the target margins that you're looking for yourself. One of the things that we found from working with all the agency partners is that the smaller the retainer oftentimes come with a higher cost of delivering the service. Unless it's kind of fully automated, then the higher the retainer, they tend to have better gross margins. Just because there's more money to work with, you can hire better talent, and maybe there's more efficiency. Maybe you've adopted value-based pricing, so you actually are charging for what it's worth rather than the hours that are going into it. It just works out better for that agency owners with that. So a lot of times what we're doing is teaching our partners how to adopt value-based pricing, work with a particular niche, and productize the agency to have better margins at the end of the day, all right? Because the whole idea behind a business, you have income minus the cost, leaving you with profits. And if you're making no profits, what's the purpose of running an agency in the first place? This is a very complex topic because there's no perfect fit for any agency owners. The numbers, the percentages are going to rely heavily on how you deliver work, right? Whether in-house, through contractors, or some sort of a fixed means. Perhaps you have some automation in place to help you get more efficiency, thus increasing your gross margin. So one of the things that we provide for our partners is, number one, flexibility. So you can actually charge whatever it is that you like to charge, because our pricing is fixed at the end of the day. So if you're taking our pricing and you double it, which is something that we recommend our partners to do, you're already at the highest threshold of gross margin of 50% for a service company. It's unheard of. So we've built this with knowing that every agency owner is looking to maximize their margin, maximize their profit. And we've always recommended our partners to take our pricing and double it. It makes sense to do that because we are teaching our partners a value-based pricing model, and we're also teaching them how to go after a particular niche and how to build a product for that particular niche based on the problems that they have, so that you can unlock the value they're willing to pay to solve their lead generation and customer acquisition challenges. So I do have some good news. That is, how do you actually increase your agency's gross margins. So I got a couple points that I want to go over that's going to help you really optimize the margins for your agency. Now, if your margins are single digits or 12% or 18%, small agencies tend to spend a lot more money in the first few years than larger agencies. So until you really figured out your niche, your product, as small agencies, if your margins are smaller, say it's 12% or 13%, it's nothing to worry about, because as a new agency, you should really be investing your time into finding a customer segment that you can solve and going all in on it and worrying about profitability later. All right, so think of yourself as a tech startup. If you think about a tech startup that sells a software subscription for $9.99, the product development and all the engineering costs probably cost them millions, right? This is why they have to get investors to fund the development of the product, just because they're not going to turn profitable for many, many years. In fact, some of the largest of software companies out there never made any profit just because they spend so much money. So you're not really in that bucket. You're going to be able to be profitable. Year one is just that you need to figure out what is the healthy margin for your agency as it relates to the products that you're selling and to who you're selling to. All right, so here's some items that you can take away right here from this video to increase your gross margin. The number one item that I would recommend for agency owners just like yourself is to productize. And the reason I talk about productization, especially when it comes to profit margins, is that you have less and less variables. When a productized agency rolls out the products, they've already taken into consideration who you're working with and what is it going to cost to deliver that service, right? It's like a restaurant. When they're selling a hamburger, they already know how much is the bun, how much is the lettuce, the tomato, the meat, and the labor, and bringing it on a table. How much does that cost? Approximately, say 33%. They now know what their gross margins are, so they can work on getting that food cost lower or getting the labor cost lower to optimize for profitability. In the exact same manner, when an agency productizes their business, they're then able to figure out what that cost is associated with delivering that service, having less and less variables. So in the grand scheme of things, we realize that when an agency offers so many different services, a variety of services, they have less and less control over their profit margin, just because there's going to be unknown challenges, maybe staffing challenges, cost challenges. Somebody didn't actually come through, so you ended up costing more, and that's where you see the variables in the profit margin from agency. Like I said, it's what you're selling and how much you're selling for and how do you get the work done is what really is based out of. So in a productized environment, you don't have a lot of variables, and the variables are already accounted for, and the customers are picking it for an upgrade fee or an additional fee to get different things, and you already know your margins. Like I said, you actually end up in a better place with a productized agency. And when you have a productized service, then the next piece that you want to be doing is adopting a value-based pricing. Rather than selling hours for money, you can say that, hey, the value that I provide to this niche for this particular service is based on the customers that we're going to deliver, right? The number of clients or the actual lifetime value of the clients that you're going to get. Let's say every client that they get is a $40,000 client for your agency client. Then you could charge based on the outcome that you're going to be producing for them rather than the hours that are going into doing the work. It might cost you $500 to offer that service, or say $1,500 to offer that service. Instead of charging $2,000 or $3,000, you can charge $4,000 or $12,000, because the value is going to be significantly more for that particular type of client. In our programs that we have here at ClickX, we teach our partners how to find a niche, how to find the challenges that they're facing, and how much is that customer worth to them. What are they currently doing? What can they be doing differently with you as an agency? And how much are they spending now? And if they spend more, how much more money can they make, so that you can base your pricing on the outcome that you can deliver for that customer rather than hours in, hours out. Once you adopt a value-based pricing for your agency, you're probably never going to want to go back to charging hours, right? So you want to be charging $4,000, or what we teach is say $12,000 for 3-month engagement. Gives you much more flexibility on your cash flow, and you have predictability on your cash flow, and you also know your gross margin just because you know what it's going to cost you to deliver a $12,000 service. And my third thing is offering services that are then provided by a white label provider. Why is this important? Again, you want to have greater control over your expenses. You want to have greater control of your costs if you really care so much about margins. In my opinion, you should worry more about who you're selling the service to, how much are you going to do it, and in the early days, figure out what product is going to really help them solve, and over time, productize it, have a partner do all the delivery, so you actually end up with a business that has customers, they're paying a premium, and you don't have any labor because you're going to have somebody else actually deliver the services, right? So we have partners that do that perfectly fine every single day. They have leads coming in, they have calls that they're taking, they're closing the deals, and they would have a white label partner like ourselves doing all the delivery work, and they have extremely low overhead and extremely high margins just because they're not charging by the hour. They're charging $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, sometimes $15,000 for a particular service that can be done by a team like us, right? So they're not having to hire the labor. They invest more and more into their marketing, thus making the agency even bigger. This is perfectly doable, and you could have predictability in your margins if you follow these 3 simple steps, right? Figure out who you're selling to, how much is that service going to be, productize it. Come up with a price based on all the variables, because the moment you start picking up different jobs from different customers that are all different cost structure and you're working with different vendors, it is going to put you in a place where you're bound to lose money on a couple of deals just because those are unknown territory, uncharted water. You really don't know what you're dealing with. Took on a video project and your videographer cost you $4,000 and the client paid you $3,000. You're only losing money on that deal. Whereas if you created products that actually taken into consideration all the variables of all the cost changes, you can have a much greater control on margin. As I said before, our partners are able to take our prices and double it, so they're actually making a much healthy gross margin for a professional services company. Without all the variable costs, without any labor, without any unpredictability, without any of those overhead things like payroll and benefits and things like that, they're able to actually deliver quality work and charge for it and have a amazing bottom line at the end of the year. This is a great question coming from agency owners. I call agency owners analytical, or they're creative brains. The analytical ones are always thinking about margins and numbers and what are they supposed to charge and what products. These are the kind of questions that I get every single day. So I'm glad you asked this, and I'm hoping this video gave you some insight into how to think about scaling an agency, how to have healthier margins, gross margins, so that you can invest more money back into the business to grow it faster. So I hope this video has been helpful on how to increase your gross margin for your agency. As I said, margins are relative to the types of agency that you're running, and there's no perfect number that I need you to go chase, because I would rather you have a growth engine that can consistently grow revenue month over month, year over year. You can easily get to figuring out the margins much quicker, right? So you just need to control your costs, manage your expectations for clients, figure out the pricing based on a value-based pricing model. You're able to accomplish all of this in 1 year if you needed to. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some value in this video. If you liked it, click that like button, consider subscribing to the channel. Leave me a comment. Tell me more about your idea on what a margin or a healthy gross margin should be for an agency. I'd love to have a follow-up. Tell us more, because again, this is a community of agency owners that are all looking to get better, and we're here to help you get there. All right, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.